2026 Hyundai Ioniq 6 First Look. Already wild-looking, the EV sedan is about get a wilder N version. There also is a new N-line performance variant. Hyundai is teasing something more. The Hyundai Ioniq 6 is a quirky-looking all-electric sedan, but it's also a rather bit better than its direct Tesla competitor, the Model 3. This is thanks to offering very quick charging when optioned with its larger 77.4 kWh battery pack and offering a much nicer ride. Now, after 3 years of lurking in its squarer, more SUV-shaped Ioniq 5 siblings shadow, it's time for an update, and Hyundai is bringing some performance to its all-electric sedan, expanding the Model 3s it competes with from the single and dual-motor variants to the Model 3 performance. That's right. Just as the Ioniq 5 gained an N performance model, the Ioniq 6 is sprouting a high-performance Ioniq 6N. So far, U.S. spec details are forthcoming, as the 6 has made its global debut in its Korean home market, but expect almost everything you see here to transfer to the American market version coming for 2026. A cleaner, even better look. The exterior styling retains the original SX's funky dramatically sloping rear profile, which gives off Volkswagen Beetle Type 1 or 1980s-era Porsche 911 vibes, albeit backing up a swoopy four-door electric sedan. When you step around to the front, you immediately see the new SX's most radical visual change, a switch from last year's wide-eyed headlights to gunslit-style LED strips stuffed with the same quad LED pattern Hyundai uses as a signature on its all-electric Ioniq models. Look closer, and it's apparent that these thin lights are mere running lamps, and that the actual headlights are hidden in the lower intake element, in a move reminiscent of recent BMW products. It also drags the Ioniq 6 more in line with other Hyundai sedans, including the Elantra Compact and the mid-size Sonata, both of which have similar thin, horizontal lighting elements. This new daytime and headlight design allows the cut line of the hood where it meets the bumper to be straightened out to a severe horizontal, and the power haunches of the hood are much sharper versus the 2025 body. The new front fascia is also very different for the N-line version, gaining an aggressive and stronger motorsport-inspired design with an almost entirely darkened lower element. Out back, the deck lid no longer has a secondary spoiler attached to the bottom of the glass, though the prominent ducktail spoiler remains and almost seems larger than before. Either way, the look out back is cleaned up somewhat, with some of the fussier aerodynamic elements Hyundai tacked onto the original to clean up the airflow around the SX's bulbous but now better integrated and styled before. The center high-mount brake light is relocated from the now non-existent secondary spoiler to the top of the rear window, and the taillights themselves feature new elements and a smoked appearance. Other rear-end lighting and reflectors take on a more horizontal theme, too, matching the taillights and new front lighting. There are now different bumper designs that depend on which Ioniq 6 you get. For the standard version, the profile features an arching body feature that stretches from side to side of the rear bumper. Just under the now horizontal LEDs is a slit cutout that only the license plate strakes interrupt. Unfortunately, we don't get a clean look at the rear of the N-line version, but the same aggressive and motorsports-inspired appearance matches what we see up front. It's hard to tell, but the rear duckbill on the Ioniq 6 N-line might just be a bit more aggressive. Fewer changes inside. Inside there aren't a whole heap of changes. The steering wheel retains its flat bottom design but is now a 3-spoke rather than the 2-spoke the 2025 version had. The airbag/horn pad has also changed, being more elongated at the bottom and losing its feature line. Even the layout of the buttons, quadruple LEDs, and stalks remain the same. The significant change appears to be the center console. It retains its 2-level feature, but the layout has completely changed on the top. The shelf for smartphones to rest has been removed, and as well as the single USB-A port. Now, a Qi wireless device charger and a small pocket to vertically position a smartphone when it's not charging sits in line with the repositioned cup holders on the passenger side of the console. On the driver's side is where all the extra accessory and window switches have been relocated. These were once positioned behind those centrally located cup holders and is a welcome change. This is because it will mean less hand movement from steering wheel to those switches, making it not only more comfortable but also safer as the driver can quickly reposition their hand back on the wheel when needed. Just aft of those switches is another long and skinny opening that you can place things like spare keys, wallets, or anything that you might not want in your pockets during a drive. Oh, and the single USB-A port has been replaced by a pair of USB-C ports at the head of the console, just under the climate control panel. What we do see in these images are the external side view cameras and screens found on non-US Ioniq 6 models. With no changes to the laws here, we expect the 2026 Ioniq 6 to feature standard exterior mirrors and a blank panel on each end of the dashboard, just as we see in the 2025 models. And now, what you've been waiting for. Finally, while Hyundai didn't outright show it off, we did see a sneaky image of the anticipated Ioniq 6N Sport Sedan. You can see that some of the influence of the new N-line trickles down from this high-performance version of the Ioniq 6. At least comparing the two XS foot rear ends, which is all we can see on the full-on N. The taillight panel appears to be visually different from the Ioniq 6 and its N-line version, as the LEDs don't appear to stretch across on the N version. We also see a spoiler sitting on the deck lid just under the lower portion of the rear window, but the Ioniq 6N appears to keep the duckbill spoiler as a secondary aerodynamic feature. Lastly, we see that the pinstripe treatment of the lower fascias will continue to be a distinctive visual cue of the N model, as this is present on the lowest portion of the rear bumper. We'll see more on the Ioniq 6N by July, but the current Ioniq 5N offers a pretty good preview. Dual motors and an 84 kWh battery combining for 641 horsepower and 568 lb-ft of torque, enough to punt the similarly sized 5N to 60 miles per hour in only 2.8 seconds in our testing, making it the quickest SUV we'd ever evaluated at the time. The 6N's battery specifics and output could change somewhat relative to the 5N, of course, but the basics should carry over. After all, the Ioniq 6 and Ioniq 5 are related through their EGMP EV architecture. Pricing and availability of the 2026 Hyundai Ioniq 6 and Ioniq 6N line haven't been disclosed yet, but with the N version announced for July, we expect to hear those mainstream versions' details just before or around that same time this summer, with at least the non-N6 models going on sale before the end of 2025.